welcome back to Seaside Garage.
Do you know that feeling of finding a project car and feeling that if you don't do this right now, you will regret it for the rest of your life? And if you don't go very quickly, someone else will jump in front of you and get it? Well, I had that feeling with this, and I had that feeling with pretty much all of my projects. Do you know the feeling a couple of days later? This I have actually owned for quite a while. I never really showed this. I did show it on a couple of garage tour videos in my storage facility, but I never made any videos inside of the garage, even though I actually have done some work to this. So there's a bit of catch up to do, but this, I just poked my finger through the roof, is a project car. And I do have a lot of project cars. If you didn't know that, then hello and welcome to the channel. I am actually in a process of trying to do a bit of weeding out in my garage, in my projects. I have so many projects, and I can see that I'm constantly getting new ones, and there is stuff that I need to take a serious look on and decide whether I'm gonna actually fix, or if the reality is that they will just be standing in my garage and not go anywhere, because that I do not like, and I don't want to do that. So if there is projects that I know that I will never do, I'm gonna get rid of them. Also because I know that it will be a constant flow of new projects coming in. No matter how hard I try to resist it, it's not possible to resist, apparently. As a matter of fact, I'm actually picking up another project tomorrow, which I'm really looking forward to, at least for the day tomorrow. Probably the day after will be a little bit like today. But this, I really need to take a better look at this, and I haven't looked at it actually. All I did was picking it up, taking it home. Then I fired it up, and I will tell you a bit about how I did that and what happened. And that was probably the reason why you haven't seen it since, because it was really demotivating, but not a surprise either. When I got this, I put on a battery, put some fresh fuel in the tank, put the ignition on, nothing happened. It turned out the fuel pump was completely toast. I didn't really have a new pump, and I didn't really want to go into the fuel tank to change it. So what I did was I took another fuel pump and wired it up and put that into a can of fuel. Unfortunately, I didn't film any of that because 2 years ago, I was at a point with my channel where I thought it's probably not a good idea to just keep on starting new projects without really finishing anything. Which is not true. I'm actually finishing quite a lot of stuff, but I'm also starting a lot of stuff. So I didn't film this. I thought I'm just going to park this away, and then when I get the time to actually focus on this project, then I will pick it up. I'm at a completely different stage now. I don't really care about how many projects I start, because it's not really about the projects or the finishing of projects or anything like that. It's about the process, for me at least. It's pretty much just about a man in his garage with a lot of tools and a lot of rust. Anyway, the fuel pump in, it actually started up pretty much straight away. Before that, I changed the oil and I put in some coolant. I didn't even look at the cam belt. I probably should have done that, but I just thought I had to start it up to move it to my garage facility, as always. I fired it up. It actually ran pretty nicely. I shut it off, only to find out that the entire capacity of the coolant system was now inside the oil of this engine, which is not a big surprise. They are known to have very bad head gaskets. They do also have some other issues that could give the same symptoms. That is something that I'm hopefully gonna find out today. But it was a big problem right there, because I had to move the car really quickly. So what I did was to drain the oil, drain the coolant, put in some new oil, start the engine up and move it very quickly to the position where I wanted it, and then just park it and then just forget about it as fast as I could, because I could have completely overheated this engine. I don't think so though, but yeah, it wasn't ideal. And I'm still scared to this day about about all that coolant in the oil. It could have damaged the bearings. This could end up being a complete rebuild if I even go down that road. But this engine actually still runs. I could fire it up yesterday also to just move it out of the facility really quickly with the engine completely bone cold. It takes some time before the coolant is actually needed, but it's not ideal. And that's pretty much the full story of this car till this day, because I haven't done anything else to it. I bought it with some spare parts in the trunk, and I can't even remember what is in there. I thought it was the only one in Denmark. I think there is another one, but this car is extremely rare, and that's the reason why I really have to think about this project, because it could be fun to fix, but it depends on how bad it is, and I don't know. I have never had it on the lift. I couldn't really access it underneath, so I don't know how bad it is. Some rust is already fixed, but there is a lot of rust, and the roof is especially really scary. As you could see when I parked it up, I can't open the driver's door. I hope to fix that today, because it would be really nice to not having to climb in and out. Of course I can go in from the other side, but yeah, it would be nice to fix. And firstly I need to, oh, it's open already. There's stuff in here. Oh, that works. The struts are working. Amazing. I'm not the only insane person in the world, and that's really nice to see. I haven't bought a lot of parts for this. I actually bought a head gasket and some other stuff one day where I thought that, I better fix up the Rover GTi without really thinking it all through. Just like the Saab Commander, I bought tires for that car, which is an insane thing to do with it when the project is not done. Anyway, the previous owner of this car, who bought it as a project also, he did drive it home though, but that's a lot of years ago. He bought new brake discs. And he removed the front brake calipers and painted them. And it actually looks pretty nice. Unfortunately, it's a bit rusty in the bore now from storage. Hope to be able to clean that up to make that all right. He bought all the rubbers for that, rebuilt. Pistons are there. More parts for the Rover 140 GTi, a spare headlight, the paperwork. I was actually missing that. It was even registered to the guy I bought it from. I wasn't actually aware of that. It's from 1992. Brake pads, timing belt, the tool to lock the cams. When changing the cam belt, I didn't even know there was a cam belt in here. Good thing I didn't buy one. And then there is a repair panel for the front valance, I think. I don't know what I don't know what's the correct name for this. This is completely rotten on mine, so that's nice. That's where the VIN number is stamped, by the way. So I need a permission to actually change that part. Plastic bits. Glove compartment, and then there is just interior stuff that has been removed. I'm gonna take you guys a little bit closer. I got another Metro in my storage, by the way, the Austin Surf Metro. So I know where that was rusty. I fixed most of the rust on that one, by the way. I don't know if the Rover or the MK2 Metros were bad in the same areas, but I do think they had some rust issues. There's a bit of mouse stuff here, or maybe birds actually. Ooh, speakers. Cassette holder. The side skirt for the other side as well. I just want to remove everything loose in here to see. Oh, there's a spare tire. So now I don't know where the bad parts in this car is supposed to be, but I was actually expecting to see more rot back here. But at first glance it's not, doesn't look to be too bad, at least. There's a bit over there, but not too bad. Oh, the seats are nasty because this car's been parked outside and there's a hole in the roof, so it's very moldy. I'm gonna leave them in, and then I'm gonna lift this car up to inspect it a bit better. But before lifting it up, let's just take a look at what we can see already now. The roof got some terrible areas, especially around the sunroof. This is as bad as the CX GTi I fixed up a couple of years back. This will be very difficult to fix, but the thing is, it's actually not going to be very difficult to fix if it's just about getting it watertight and driving. It's very difficult to fix if I want it to look good, but I can live with this not being completely pretty if that means that the car will survive for longer. Remember, driving a GTi car, it's not going to make any difference whether the roof is pretty or not. It's just when you park it up. I have a spare roof from the first generation Metro, and I think it's the same. Unfortunately, it also has some rust back there, but I could cut out a piece up here to have the correct curvature, and then maybe make an edge. Normally I like to weld butt to butt or edge to edge, but maybe it would make sense to cut it and then make a flange that the part could be lowered into, and then maybe glue it in to not warp everything, or maybe just spot weld it a couple of places and then seal it up. That plan, of course, would delete the sunroof. That would be okay. It will be a bit difficult in here because the fabric would be missing, of course. And it's not a car that is easy to get parts for in my parts of the world. So getting a new one of these would be difficult. But as you can see, it's also so moldy that it would probably be nice to just scrap it. Yeah. Oof. There's a rust hole right there also. It's definitely some rust in here. But that's easy to fix, of course, that right there. But depends on how bad it is. Oh, it's actually not a rust hole. Well, it is, but it is supposed to have holes there. So maybe it's not as bad as first. But there is a bit there. I don't think it's supposed to have a hole right there. Huh, what a nice bucket. In a way, I don't think it looks as bad as I was fearing, but I always say that. Anyway, back to the exterior. That is an area of a bit more than concern, and there is also some down here. This part of the plastic is not removed, so I don't know how it looks underneath there just yet, but probably not great. The sills are not great. I have repair sills for this one. I also have a spare bonnet for it, actually, brand new. There's a bit of rust on the door, not too bad either. Then it got a big dent right there, could probably be fixed. And then that rusty part up here, that could be nice to fix also. The bonnet is bad, but as mentioned, I have a spare one, completely new one. This up here looks pretty nice. And then the door got the same rust, and there's rust down there also. But this side is actually better. It's just very dirty. It would be nice to give it a good wash. So far, nothing is really scary looking out here. It will be fixable. It would be nice to find a new roof that is rust-free, but finding that locally is probably not that easy. And getting it shipped from the UK, it's not gonna happen. I don't have the money for that. But that's definitely the worst part of what I can see now. But now I want to lift it up to see if the bottom end is completely rotted away and how bad that is. And then that engine afterwards. Now I'm gonna attempt to lift it on the lifting point, which could be a disaster. But as mentioned, I'm also trying to take a decision. And if this car is completely lost course, then I really think I need to try to realize that. But I gotta say, I really don't want to realize that because it's also a very interesting GTi. Not going through the floor just yet, at least. Before going underneath the car, I'm just gonna remove the tires, and I just zipped off and I just loosened up all the nuts. This way it will be a little bit easier to actually inspect the wheel arches and so on. Ah, there we go, it's off. Yeah, the caliper is missing because it's in the trunk. I'm gonna remove the rest of the wheels, and then it's time to take a deep breath. Let's start at the right rear wheel arch. Is this? There's a bit of rust down there. The rear valance part seems to be pretty gone. The wheel arch in here. What about in here? The subframe mounts. It seems to have some issues also. I think that removing this screw is a good idea because with that out of the way I can see the scope of rust repairs needed. Yeah. As mentioned, I have this outer panel as a repair panel, so that's not too bad. In there, it is quite a bit worse though. It's definitely a axle off job and also fuel tank off job, which is all right because I need to change the fuel pump anyway. Well, I could probably do that from above. But yeah, this is definitely quite bad actually. So I'm moving straight to the other side to see if it's as bad on that side also. Could be pulled out. So that's lucky. Oh, it's way better on this side. The panel is actually still there and way better in there. Okay, so that's nice to see that it's not, at least not on both sides, completely gone in this area. And then underneath the car, there is the rear panel right there. That is completely toast. And then here we start to see some of the interesting things on this car. Here's the rear anti-roll bar. And then right there, the bicycle valve looking thing is for the suspension, the hydro gas suspension. The spheres is in there. But let's take the trip underneath the car. There's a connector that is not connected. I wonder what that is. Could that be the fuel pump maybe that wasn't working? I probably tried to measure on it or something like that. Or maybe I actually disconnected it in case it started working to not just put fuel all over the place. I can't remember, it's been so long. Oh, remember when I said it wasn't that bad on this side? It is. But I fixed this on my on the other Metro I got. It's not too bad. The floor pans actually look decent inside of here. It's just at the edges. They are pretty bad. The other side is actually again looking a lot better. How's the subframe doing? Needs some cleaning for sure. Not too bad. Let's go ahead and check the wheel arches. I can't really get those screws out, but I can see what I need to see now. And this is definitely looking quite decent. It's not bad. Yeah, there's some rust in there. As you can see. Let's check the other side. Remember, this is the bad side, at least in the rear. So I'm quite worried about taking a look in here. Nope, it's fine. That's good. At the front, it's the same. It's pretty ruddy down there. At the front part of the suspension or the subframe mounting. Yeah, that's a lot of welding to be done on this car. Okay, so overall there is a lot of rust to fix on this. It's the roof that is the worst, and then comes the rear subframe axle thingy, mounting areas, and also the front. It is bad, it's quite bad, but it's doable. I don't see anything that is scaring me too much. I haven't seen enough to really be able to decide anything. I need to know if that engine is completely toast. So I'm going to try to do a smoke test on the engine to figure out where the water gets into the engine. Is it through the head gasket or inlet manifold? Yeah, a bit shocked about the rust in the rear, to be honest. But if the engine is an easy repair, if it turns out that it's just the inlet manifold, for instance, that needs fixing, I'm tempted to give it a go. If it turns out the head gasket is gone, it could become complicated very quickly, and then I am starting to lean towards this is too big of a project for what I'm trying to do here. Let's see, I'm gonna smoke test. I'm just gonna rig up my smoke tester and connect it to the coolant system and see if I can figure out where the smoke goes and how it goes into the engine, because I do know where it goes. It goes into the engine. But how does it get there? That is what I'm gonna try to figure out. Looking at that rust in the rear, it scares me because it's worse than the Surf, the Metro Surf that I fixed. And I was really challenged when fixing that. But on the other hand, it's a lot of years ago now, and I have developed my skills quite a lot, so maybe it's not as bad as it might look, but it is involving, that's for sure. And there's still the roof, remember, the roof is completely toast also. But yeah, engine. By the way, I have a lot of cars, as you might know. Smoke is coming. This is the only 16-valve engine that I currently own, except the wife's daily Citroen C3, of course. But yeah, now smoke is building in the coolant system, and while that builds, I'm going to remove the spark plugs to see if the smoke starts coming up of the out of the plug holes. And if they do that, then I will try to use the camera to check whether it comes from below or if it comes through the valves, for instance. It would be nice to see it coming through the intake valve, because that could point toward the gasket theory, which would be quite nice. So cylinder number 1, or at least the first one, comes out. I don't see smoke. Also black spark plug. Don't see smoke. Number 3, black spark plug, don't see smoke. Number 4, black spark plug, and I don't see smoke. No smoke just yet. Let's just remove the oil filler to see if smoke starts to come out from there. Yep, we got smoke right there. But not inside the combustion chambers. That doesn't tell me much, to be honest. There's a chance it's the head gasket, there's a chance it's the inlet manifold gasket, there is a chance that it's a cracked liner also. But if it was a cracked liner, I would probably see smoke, unless the piston is above that broken area. I'm gonna do a compression test just to figure out how what the compression looks like, to just get a little bit closer, whether there's actually a breach between those ports. Also, no spark plugs actually indicates any big issues with water. They would normally be looking very clean. So now I'm gonna do a compression test. I'm gonna see if I can give it full throttle from out here, because I cannot get into the car without climbing in there because the door is not working. But I can reach the key through the window. So like this, it's giving it full throttle. And I can crank it for a couple of revolutions and then read the compression. First one reads 185. Reads 188. These are really nice figures so far. $188. This is not looking great. Oh, it's looking worse at least than the other one. 170. I'm just gonna redo this test on this cylinder. 172. So that actually points toward an issue on this one. I'm gonna take a look into that bore to see if it looks more clean than the other ones, because that could indicate that we actually have a breach right in there. So let's go ahead and take a look into that. I actually see smoke in there still, but I'm definitely seeing smoke in that cylinder. It just wasn't enough to actually show it coming out of there. But look at this. I think you can see it on the screen. I can at least. It's hazy down there. And it's not in the other one, so there is a connection here. So my leak down tester is not a very good one, so the actual gauge won't be much use. But if I can hear the air escaping through the coolant system on this one, which I should do, I know that there is a breach. I just don't know where, but maybe by turning the engine over I will figure out if it's all over the stroke or if it's only a top or something like that, and that could tell me something. Now the smoke is coming out of another hole. Actually one of the good ones. Probably because it's now plugged over here. The entire engine is full of smoke, so maybe it's not that weird. Okay, so I have a hard time really concluding precisely what's wrong with this engine, but I'm 90% sure that it's head gasket related, but also fearing that it's worse than that. Head gasket itself is also quite a bit big of a thing. It will probably need skimming the head and so on, but that's not too bad either. It's just stacking up a lot on this car. It's definitely stacking up. So now I know what this project actually is. The roof is really bad. The rust, especially in the rear, is really bad. I will find more than that, I'm sure. The engine is quite bad. It would probably be nice to just take it out, honestly, to fix the engine up proper and do the rust in the engine bay, because there will probably be more and it will be easier to work with the subframe mount rust I found with the engine out. That way I could also maybe put the car on the auto whip when the air bath is done, that is. But I'm honestly unsure if this is a project for me. I can definitely fix this, no problem. It will just take a lot of time, but I'm still really tempted to fix it because it's such a rare car, it's such an interesting car. It would be so fun to have a GTi that nobody else has. So I'm not completely abandoning this, but I need to think about this thoroughly. I need to figure out what can I get in terms of repair panels. I think the rest of the spares are pretty easy to get. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget you can support me. There's a Patreon link down below. You can also go to my merch shop to buy some stuff. T-shirt with rusty cars on them, for instance. Who doesn't want that? And see you in the next one.